Hi there, I'm Square, and let's talk about anime. This week we have episode 14 of Yashahime. First off, fantastic episode. We started strong with an amazing new OP full of hints, reveals, and even a bit of subtlety and symbolism. And we finally got a few answers to some of those pressing questions of the series within this episode. Not so much that it felt like a forced exposition drop, but not so little that it was frustrating. It was a really good balance, and we finished off the episode with a beautiful new ED as well. Overall, thumbs up from me for this episode. Now, for a quick summary before we get into my further thoughts. This episode centered around the abusive relationship between the beautiful young Tamano and the demon lord of the snowy mountain, Homura. Tamano was kidnapped by Homura and held captive until she managed to escape into the mountains. Luckily, she ended up being found by Riku just as she collapsed. This leads our princesses to receive a bounty to take out Homura, so Tamano can finally be free since he'll never stop pursuing her. This fight was far from easy for the girls though. After a Leroy Jenkins moment from Moroha, the battle turns personal when it was revealed that Homura was the demon who burned down the forest home of young Toa and Setsuna, leading to their separation. Toa, enraged, throws herself into the fight. The ensuing battle sees the girls pretty outmatched. When the twins use their high-powered attacks combined, Homura doesn't even flinch. But the battle is interrupted by Riku showing up with Tamano, who proceeds to break up with Homura, devastating him to the point where Homura is overtaken by his own power and eventually succumbs to the flames, leaving nothing but ash and our girls once again with no head for a bounty. I have to say, it was kind of refreshing to finally see the girls actually struggle in a fight. Things have often felt way too easy for the princesses, hardly seeing them struggle with demons who are supposed to be really strong. They've already taken out half of the perils, and each of those fights barely lasted half an episode. So it's nice to see the girls with some weaknesses, seeing their attacks doing no damage and hardly phasing an enemy. I don't know about you, but I kind of want to see characters struggle a bit. I want to see them have something to fight for, see them grow into their accomplishments. It's nice to see they're not overpowered and they have some growing to do. We also got to hear a little bit more about Moroha's backstory, that her debt is linked to a master. Now, things weren't really elaborated beyond this point, so we don't know any details of who her master is or why she has a debt because of him. Even so, we're getting one more puzzle piece of Moroha, and I'm really happy that we finally are. But the standout part of this episode for me, and I think a lot of others of the community, was the whole scene around the reveal of Homura being the one to burn down the twins' forest. Things are starting to come together a little bit as we get more pieces of the twins' backstory. It seems like Homura was ordered by a mysterious demon named Zero to burn down the forest in order to kill Toa and Setsuna. This reveal alone is huge. We now know the forest fire was not an accident. This was purposeful to kill the 4-year-old children. And it sounds like they were targeted partially because they're Hanyo, half demons. Hanyo don't really fit in anywhere. They're not recognized as humans with humans, not recognized as demons with demons. And it seems like some even consider them to be abominations to the point of being worthy of death just for being born. And Riku seems to think close to the latter, although he is a bit hard to read. This episode, he only really had bad things to say about human relationships and took a real sadistic pleasure in tormenting Homura for his love of a human, torturing him to the point where he consumed himself in flames. Not that I'm complaining. Homura was an abusive demon, but still, seeing Riku take that much pleasure in it was something. Riku is intriguing and frightening. With his apparent dislike of humans and Hanyo, it kind of makes his interest in Towa even more suspicious. And this is probably going to play a huge part moving forward. Lastly, probably what's on everyone's minds surrounding this whole scene, Sesshomaru. We finally got to see him again, and this time, a little bit of controversy around what happened. He was there when Zero called for the girl's death, not responding when he was asked if he was okay with the fire starting. I've seen some contentions around Sesshomaru's actions here among the fan community, and honestly, I feel this was a very Sesshomaru response. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying his response that he was A-okay with killing his daughters was a Seshi thing. Just the fact that he didn't respond at all. Him turning, walking away without a word. That is a very Sesshomaru thing to do, and I don't think that means he's abandoning the girls or doesn't care about them. Again, it doesn't say anything to the opposite, but just him turning and not talking, it isn't too revealing of his actual feelings. It's just a big part of how his character responds to things, in my opinion. We do have to keep the situation in mind, though. Zero was in command of Homura, who seemed pretty intimidated by her. And we saw in this episode how strong Homura was. So if he was taking orders, then Zero must be a powerhouse. Perhaps Sesshomaru wasn't powerful enough to take her, and probably Homura too, on alone at that time. But I think his turning and walking away was more of a calculated move. Many demons have trouble with Hanyo. Sesshomaru was definitely one of them. Perhaps Sesshomaru had to play along. Yep, hate those Hanyo, even if they're my own blood. You have no idea how many times I tried to kill my own demon half-brother. If he was trying to play nice to Zero, stay on her good side, or perhaps just stay off her radar, he had to hide his reaction or feelings, which is something he's always been good at. We don't know where he went when he walked off. Thinking back to the forest fire scene, Towa was whisked away into the future, which saved her from the fire. But what about Setsuna? She was young, weak, and in the middle of a giant burning forest that was collapsing around her. How could she have survived? It would make the most sense to me that Sesshomaru snuck off and saved her. We don't know for sure yet, but I feel like there's some logic to that train of thought. So let's wrap things up by talking about the art. Now, the art today is a little bit simple, but I'm going for simple on purpose. So for Christmas, one of my most favorite gifts that I got was a button maker. So this kind where you like put the metal on one side and the plastic on top, and you chink down and you make your own little like pin button thing. It's really cute and really fun to use. I've been playing around with it a little bit, and I really want to make buttons of these characters. So I want to do this like chibi cutesy look, one that would show well on a tiny button. These are like 1.5 inches about, so you need a small space, otherwise like you can't see tiny details. So this is my first in this series of buttons, and I want to make one of each girl. And ultimately, I'd love to be able to just give those away to people. Give them away to subscribers and people who've been supporting me this whole time. So if this is something people are interested in, leave some thoughts in the comments. I'd love to do like a giveaway or something like this. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still designing, as you can see, but I'm really excited about using my new toy. So we are at the point again for me to ask for your support. So please like, subscribe, comment. Any type of interaction really helps the channel. We are slowly growing. We are approaching my first 100 followers. I'm really excited to reach that milestone. So anything you could do to help would be amazing. So thank you again for joining me today, and please have an artsy day.